What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Locked In Sports Podcast. Today, we're down in Houston, Texas. We're talking the Houston Astros 2025 season preview. Luis, how's it going?
Today we're talking about Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, just like Big X the plug. The Astros start playing like Big X the plug when I bet American currency on them. So here we go. Houston Astros. No, nothing needs to be said about that. I think we all understand with that meaning, as William will speak now about that.
What an intro. Yeah, he banged on the table. And now all the Astros fans have tuned out of the podcast. But this is an interesting team.
Do Astros fans exist, first off? Do Astros fans exist? Have you ever met a Houston Astros fan?
I think it's one of those fan bases, and answering this truthfully, I think it's one of those fan bases that is very, it's a huge fan base in Houston. I don't know how much they get outside the state of Texas, like how widespread the fan base is, because I do see a lot of, whenever I've been in Texas a few times, a lot of Astros fans everywhere, even outside of Houston. But around Chicago, Memphis, Detroit area, Michigan,
Miami, Cincinnati, none.
I don't see them, and I don't know if it's because they're scared to wear their stuff because what happened in 2017 and everything. But they do have a proud fan base. Houston sports fans are pretty solid. It's the fourth biggest city in the country. So,
Patriots fans wear their jersey all the time, and they let us know quite obviously that they're Patriots. I don't know if that's an American thing or it's a being a New England Patriots fan.
I don't know. With the Astros, this was a team when they were in their prime, 2017 through 2022, 2023. I was terrified to see as a Yankee fan, so many bad playoff memories in that stadium. Minute Maid in the playoffs with the roof closed is just a terrifying experience with Correa at the plate, Altuve at the plate, prime George Springer. You got, Garrett Cole, prime Garrett Cole, Verlander. Like, they were so freaking good, man. And I think a lot of that is obviously now overshadowed with the whole scandal and everything. But man, they won after that. They won in 2022. So I think they've kind of proven themselves. And this is a new iteration of the Astros. And now we're even into an even newer iteration of the Astros this year versus last year. Last year, they started out super slow, didn't win the division, but crept into the playoffs. Or sorry, they did win the division, but barely crept into the playoffs as a wild card team. They've dominated the American League up until last year. And now it's another new kind of roster that they're running out there because they lost Alex Bregman in free agency, weren't really in the running for him, if we're being honest. They lost Kyle Tucker, or they decided to trade Kyle Tucker. They didn't really lose him. And then Justin Verlander. A shame
a shame that we won't see Crawford boxes home runs from Alex Bregman, just little league home runs. 315, 96 meters for our European listeners, home runs.
Yeah, that's another thing about the Astros. The Yankees get so much flack for the short right porch. Fair enough, whatever. The Crawford boxes they're even worse, in my opinion, than what the Yankees have in right field. And then they lost Verlander, who signed with the Giants. So they've lost a decent amount. It's a new looking team this year. Why don't you run us through the starting nine and the rotation and the bullpen?
So yeah, this team looks a lot different from your brothers and sisters Astros teams. Looks more like our parents' Astros teams or our generation's Astros teams that they stunk it out in the 2010s, early 2010s, late 2000s with José Altuve on left, which I know a lot of people are giving him flack for missing fly ball in spring training. But it's spring training. Everybody overreacts to spring training. Like, people are overreacted to Jason Dominguez not being able to field the baseball in left field. Like, relax. They're professionals. Like, the show doesn't start for another week.
Can I comment on that?
That's why there's dress rehearsal on Broadway.
True. I do think it's a little weird having a guy that short out in right field or left field. it's a weird optics, and it's a tough position to play if you're under 6 foot or under 5'8", 5'9". It looks weird. He's going to struggle to adapt, but he does have Jake Myers in center field, who's one of the best defensive outfielders, best defensive center fielders in the sport. That's been helping him adjust and answering all of his questions. And he's a vocal leader out there in center field. So I do think he'll figure it out. Like, it's José Altuve. He's, for as much flack as he gets for this whole scandal and everything, he's a top 10 player of this generation. Like, he's just that good. I think it'll be interesting to see if he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, if he even makes the Hall of Fame with everything. If there was no scandal, he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. So I trust him to figure it out. I am a little worried about him in left field, though. It's weird. And the reason they're doing that is because they want Isaac Paredes to play third base, because he kind of can't really play anywhere else. And they wanted to improve that infield defense, because Altuve wasn't great at second either. And you can't DH him because you got Yordan. But go ahead, sorry, with the rest of the.
So yeah, Paredes is going to play third. He's going to absolutely feast with the Crawford boxes. That's a guy who made a living at Tropicana Field, pulling that ball to left field. Yordan Alvarez will DH. Christian Walker, who could be Jose Abreu 2.0, is at first. Yainer Diaz at catcher. Jeremy Peña, one of Williams' favorites, at shortstop. Chas McCormick at right. Mauricio Dubon at second. And Jake Myers at center. Their rotation, which looks to be improved from all the metrics this spring. You got Framber, Valdez, Hunter Brown, who's been spectacular in spring training, Ronald Blanco, Spencer Arangetti, and Hayden Wisniewski, with Josh Hader closing and Brian Abreu setting him up. Still, this is a team with a lot of starters on the injured list. I mean, they have Luis Garcia coming back from Tommy John eventually. Christian Javier had Tommy John last June. Lance McCullers had elbow surgery in 23. Maybe he comes back. JP France had surgery in July. So those are all guys that should factor in eventually if they can get healthy. But, I mean, hey, I think this team is definitely built up on their rotation volume.
Yeah, and I do think it's unfortunate that some of these key cogs, like a Javier who got Tommy John last June, he probably won't play a role in this year's team. I got to be honest, I haven't seen the update, but I would think that he's going to be out for the season. Let me just double check for the listeners so we get this right. Javier, yeah, no timetable for return as of now. He got Tommy John on June 6th of last year. Recovery time is 12 years, 12 months to 18 months.
Whoa.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. So he's going to be out for probably most of the season. Luis Garcia, still no timetable to return, but he got Tommy John in May of 2023, like you said, so he should be back. Lance McCullers is perpetually injured. Like, if this rotation was fully healthy, I'd feel a lot better about it. I still do think there obviously is talent there to be a pretty good rotation. You like Hunter Brown. Can he, he's already kind of emerged, but can he establish himself as like a guy that's getting Cy Young votes? I think he's going to have to if this team wants to win the division this year, because they are Houston or Texas is going to be challenging them. Seattle, even if they can't hit, they have a great rotation that'll be challenging this team. Like, it's not the Astros division. They're not the favorites this year. Framber is great. Ronel Blanco had a great first year last year. Can he follow it up? Arangetti, Hayden Wisniewski, there's some question marks there in the back half of the rotation and their depth. The lineup I feel pretty good about. Like, Altuve is going to be there. Yordan continues to be one of the most underrated players in the sport. A lot of people have him in their top 10. I got him top 15, but he is one of the best hitters in the sport. Christian Walker's already got an oblique injury. That's a concern. They say that he doesn't have a strain. He should be ready for opening day, but that is something to note. He is 34 years old. I wanted the Yankees to sign him at the beginning of the offseason, but looking at the age and some of the metrics a little bit further, I know he's a good defensive guy, certainly going to be an upgrade from hopefully an upgrade from Jose Abreu and that contract that they had on him. I don't know. They got some weird stuff with ownership and GM here. They, cut payroll by like $26 million, losing Bregman. Like, he was a a key cog of, a cornerstone guy of this franchise that's now out the window. He's going to be tough to replace. Kyle Tucker is now gone. Like, that's going to be tough to replace. Now, they did get Cam Smith back in that trade from the Cubs, and he's been balling out.
What a player, Cam Smith. Can we just talk about a minute about Mr. Cam Smith and what he's been doing this spring? Like, this dude has been tearing the cover off the freaking baseball, man. Like, this dude is probably going to make the roster this year for the Houston opening day roster. He's hitting a 423 with an OBP of 516, slugging 846 in spring training, and a WRC plus of 263. Talk about a player, William.
Yeah, and a 1.362 OPS. He's pushing Chas McCormick, and for the right field spot. I don't know if he's going to be on the opening day roster. I think it'd be fair to say, though, that he's going to be on the team at some point this season, playing a role. He was a Florida State guy, college guy, first round pick in 2024. So last summer by the Cubs. If the Cubs don't make the playoffs, they don't win the division, and Tucker signs elsewhere, which I think Tucker will sign elsewhere as of March 17th, 2025. Astros could win that trade. The Astros have had consistently one of the bottom 5 farm systems in the sport for like the past 5 to 10 years. They've just, they've been winning World Series. They've been in the running for the World Series, and they haven't really had that farm system. You've had guys like Hunter Brown pop up. You've had, obviously, now Cam Smith pop up. They're still a bottom half farm system because they've been so good. But this could be a guy. Like, he could be the next guy that kind of bridges the Altuve era to then whatever the next iteration of the Astros is after José Altuve retires. Probably still 5-6 years away from Altuve retiring, but I could see him being that next guy. Yordan is obviously still there. He's only 27, but I'm really excited to see if he plays a role with this roster this year. To be honest, I'm having trouble kind of getting a feel for what this team is going to be this year, because I do still think, obviously, there's talent. There's top-end talent there, but I think a lot of teams in their division got better, specifically the Rangers, to a lesser extent the Angels, the Athletics. Some people that are really bullish on the A's say they could compete with the Astros this year. I don't think they're there quite yet, but I also don't think the Astros should be considered favorites to win this division. And, for the past almost 10 years, it's felt like the Astros have been kind of the favorites to win this American League. They're not really in that conversation this year right now, which is weird. It feels different.
Yeah, I don't feel like this team's there with the hitting department. I mean, you have Yordan, but they are aging. They haven't produced a bat in a while. I mean, you talk about Jeremy Peña, but there's clear red flags there. Like, his bat hasn't developed to being a productive bat. I mean, their pitching's kind of been up and down like relegation level teams, like in the Premier League, like yo-yoing. I just feel like they have to build on some consistency with pitching, and they have to decide like who are they going to start and who is going to be a bullpen role. And I feel like these injuries haven't really helped them. Hitting wise, like I said, they are older, and they got to develop guys like Yainer Diaz as well. I mean, Walker, Alvarez, and Altuve are all aging. I mean, Yordan's 27, but it's kind of hard when he's only a DH. Like, you're not going to see him play outfield really with this team.
No, this year there's an emphasis on him playing DH instead of playing the outfield. They want to take, give him a rest off of his legs. So we're going to see him mostly at DH this year. And you mentioned Yainer Diaz, who is one of the better catchers in the American League. He's in that conversation. So,
but he has to develop. I mean, we have to get a little more production out of that bat this year. I mean, he only walked at a 3% rate and struck out at 17. We got to get them walks up. You got to develop a little bit better of an eye there. I just don't see that. I don't see this team being able to be good hitting. Their pitching staff is going to be heavily relied upon. And there's a lot of question marks. Like, yes, Hunter Brown could be elite this year and could be a Cy Young candidate, a sleeper Cy Young candidate with the things that he's shown in spring and the things that he was doing last season at the end of the year. But man, oh man, there's so many question marks on this team that I want to tend to not cop on this bandwagon. this season.
Yeah,
I would.
I don't want to.
I would prefer to put other teams like Seattle and the Athletic, Sacramento up ahead of them. They're in that grouping, but not at the top of the grouping. It's regression.
Yeah,
And soft tissue injuries are very hard to come and deal with. I mean, those don't just fly away. Those linger.
yeah. You mentioned the oblique for Walker. Is that what you mean?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's tough. And then Josh Hader, like, I mean, I have my opinions on him. I'm not gonna comment. My opinions. I just think if you're a team that is middling, you should not have an elite closer. A closer is like the last thing you need as a contender. That's like the last finishing. That's the cherry on top of the sundae.
I think an interesting nugget with this team this year, Framber Valdez is a free agent.
Hey, I mean, there's a lot of pieces that can move. You can move Framber. You can move a lot of guys. I mean, this team is a team that needs bats. And I mean, doing that Verlander trade for giving up those Ryan Clifford to the Mets, and I forgot who else. I think it was Drew Gilbert. I want to say. I'm not sure.
Drew Gilbert, yeah. Drew Gilbert.
Yeah, both of them. It kind of, weakened them in the outfield and just positionally.
They better hope Cam Smith pans out. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know. You mentioned like they are aging. They just gave $60 million to Christian Walker, who's 34. Could end up really working out, being a bargain deal, or could flop, similar to the Jose Abreu deal. And you got to DFA the guy. Who knows?
They might need just to do a small little reset and get younger, trade one of those arms, get a couple bats back in, and develop them on the fly and get back up. I mean, I think Paredes is a great fit there. Like, he's just going to absolutely mash the ball to the Crawford boxes. Like, that's one of the most underrated things that a lot of people haven't talked about this year, because he did all of his work in Tampa, and he was an all-star in Tampa. And then in Chicago, he wasn't the best. But, I mean, the park factor is going to actually play a huge role for him there.
Yeah, he had 31 home runs in 2023 with the Rays. That was his career high. And then last year he was on two teams, the Rays and the Cubs, and finished with 19. I think 25 to 30 home runs in Houston this year with Yordan as protection. I think 25 to 30 is in his sights. But I just don't know how much that's going to affect the overall success of the Astros this year, because second half of that lineup, there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot. I mean, Jeremy Peña hasn't developed the way I thought he would. I mean, he's still freaking World Series MVP. He was so good in the playoffs when they won the World Series, but he just hasn't followed that up. There's question marks with the rotation.
We'll see,
Altuve
man.
left's weird. We'll see. I mean, it's impossible to predict, obviously, right now. But
we'll see, man.
What's the number?
DraftKings over under not sponsored, but the crown is yours. Is at 87.5. Last year they went 88 and 73. I'm gonna have hit a heavy under with this team. Like, this is probably one of the locks under the 87.5.
I'm also going under, but I could see it pushing over just because the American League is not that good this year. That's the only way I can see it. And, you beat up on the Angels and maybe the A's too. But did they get better this offseason? No, they lost.
Everybody else got better, though. In the American, in that division, everybody got better. The Angels aren't easy. The Angels aren't an easy out, and the A's aren't easy out. Mariners are probably going to muck it up and make it a 1-0, 2-0 ball game. And Texas is going to be healthy, man. I mean, we have heard from sources that Jacob deGrom is back.
They lost a top 10 player in Kyle Tucker and one of the best third basemen, even if he wasn't his best last year, one of the best third basemen in the league, and Alex Bregman, who's going to have a bounce back year with the Red Sox. I don't see it.
Well, I don't see it either, but we'll see. I mean, hey, Vegas is high. We're not. We're low. Could be a division winner with CS potential, but I think they're just a middling team on the outside looking in, is what we see.
I think they'll be closer to 81 and 81 than 90 wins this year. Yeah.
They would be a great central block team.
They would win the Central
Maybe.
still.
I don't think they would win the Central.
Who would win?
I think the Royals would win, or the Tigers, with the Guardians sneaking too.
Okay. I think they're better than those teams still. Crazy enough.
All right, well, we agreed to disagree. Mr. Andrew Rupert would disagree as well, and Mr. Patrick Kessler would disagree. So,
True.
know. So, yeah,
All right.
I mean, tomorrow we're going to go get some crab cakes. We're going to go to Baltimore, eat some crab cakes, talk about the youth resurgence and the creatine-loaded Baltimore Orioles this season. If you guys have seen the pictures on social media, they look absolutely juiced.
And on that note, that is our 2025 Astros preview. We'll be back tomorrow with the Orioles, as Luis said. Until then, we'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.
We will catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy the day.
Okay. Peace.